Have you ever woken up one day realizing you were living a lie? That the person you love, respect, or admire so much was sucking your energy like an emotional vampire? Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to turn this dirty game around and make the narcissist respect you using strategies they would never expect. Being next to a narcissist is like trying to fill a bottomless hole with your own hands. You pour in love, understanding, patience, and still something is always missing. It's always you who didn't understand, who overreacted, who needs to give more. And in the midst of this constant effort, little by little you empty yourself out. Your boundaries dissolve, your voice fades, your self-esteem fragments into silences, until one day you realize you're fighting alone. What nobody tells you is that with a narcissist, respect isn't earned by being kinder. It's earned by understanding exactly what destabilizes them. Because even seeming strong and invulnerable, the narcissist is also afraid, and especially afraid of losing control. Today, you're going to discover 9 cruel but necessary psychological strategies that can completely change this game. Strategies that don't require you to scream or over-explain yourself, just that you wake up. And the last strategy? That's the one they fear most, because it's exactly the one that can free you the most. First strategy: stop justifying yourself. When we try to justify every step we take, hoping the narcissist will understand, we end up completely emotionally exhausted. Every word you add becomes a weapon that can be used against you. Has it ever happened that the more you explain, the more guilty you seem? The narcissist is an expert at manipulation. They catch every detail, every emotional nuance, and turn everything in their favor. That's why one of the most powerful strategies is simply to stop explaining yourself. "I don't want to," or "that's how I decided," is more than enough. Silence also communicates, and sometimes it's the strongest message you can send. When you stay quiet with firmness, the narcissist feels they're losing power. The more you need to justify yourself, the more emotional fuel you're giving them. They don't want answers, reasons, or excuses to understand you. They want all of that to continue exercising control. Therefore, starting to speak less and say only what's necessary is a way to protect your mental health. It's like learning to close a door without guilt, without screaming, without apologizing, simply closing it with security. Yes, it's difficult at first. The narcissist will seek you out, provoke you, try to make you explain yourself. But don't fall for it. Remember, staying firm isn't indifference, it's self-care. Imagine you're playing an emotional game where every word of yours can be used as a piece against you. The less you speak, the more control you recover. Those who speak little, but with clarity, earn respect. Those who stay firm in their decision without constantly justifying themselves become emotionally solid. When you stop chasing the narcissist's understanding, you disarm them. The dynamic changes completely. A Harvard University study showed that when a person responds with a firm no, without justifications in manipulative interactions, it significantly reduces the chance of being emotionally coerced. So saying "that's how I decided" isn't just a phrase. It's a self-care tool, and if the narcissist insists, change the subject, take a step back, breathe. You don't need to confront them directly. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is not responding. By the way, tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I want to know where the brave people are who decided to recover their personal power. Second strategy: look in their eyes without fear. The gaze of a narcissistic person isn't a simple facial expression. It's a tool they use to test your limits, measure your inner strength, try to dominate you without saying a single word. We live in a society where many people lower their gaze when faced with tension, but when you maintain eye contact with serenity, something revealing happens. The narcissist realizes they can't mess with you, that the technique that always worked Has this time encountered a firm emotional barrier? We're not talking about challenging or imposing yourself. It's a matter of maintaining a neutral, calm, centered gaze. A gaze that reflects a person who doesn't let themselves be dragged by fear or provocation. This calmness speaks about you, about your strengthened inner world, and this deeply destabilizes those who seek control. As Freud already observed, body posture and eye contact are direct manifestations of our internal psychic state. Imagine you're in a work meeting and that manipulative boss stares at you fixedly to intimidate you. Take a deep breath, return to yourself. Look into their eyes like someone contemplating a landscape, without tension, without hardness, without submission. Just presence. This is fundamental because this attitude breaks the narcissist's mental scheme, who expects extreme reactions, submission or rebellion. When they encounter balance and neutrality, they lose strength. Their strategy simply doesn't work. A University of Freiburg study demonstrated that prolonged eye contact can activate defensive responses in the brain of people with high need for control. When you sustain your gaze with calmness, you're activating in the narcissist a sensation of threat that disorients them, not because it comes from direct aggression, but because it comes from your self-control. In personal life, something similar happens. Has it ever happened that you're in a conversation where the person launches passive-aggressive comments disguised as irony? Instead of responding automatically, maintain eye contact, listen, let there be silence, and then respond. This sequence disarms because the narcissist expects to control the conversation's rhythm. You can train this. Look at yourself in the mirror a few minutes each day, not to judge yourself, but to connect with yourself, to remember who you are and where you choose to look at the world from. Actually, when you learn to sustain a serene and controlled gaze, you're sending a very powerful silent message. Here I am, firm, without fear, without needing to hide or attack you. And this changes everything. The narcissist, despite their desire for dominance, recognizes this. When they can't control, they begin to respect, because true respect isn't imposed, it's inspired. Third strategy: never react in the moment. One of the most effective mechanisms to recover emotional balance when facing a narcissist is learning to stop, to not respond immediately. The narcissist knows exactly how to trigger your wounds, your insecurities, your most intense emotions. They enjoy the emotional chaos they generate and use it to exercise control. That's why when you respond in the heat of the moment without reflection, you're delivering power into their hands. The key is in making a pause, breathing, stepping away. This pause has enormous therapeutic and strategic value. In psychology, we talk about the importance of the space between stimulus and response, that brief instant where you decide not to react automatically, but to become conscious and choose how to act. Freud called this psychic elaboration, the process where we transform impulses into conscious actions. This moment completely changes the course of the relationship. Imagine you're in an argument where tempers flare and the narcissist starts blaming you, pointing at you, hurting you. If instead of entering this emotional game you say, "I'll think about this," or "I prefer to talk later," and take distance, you're caring for your mental health, protecting your balance. You can go for a walk, write what you feel, talk to someone you trust. Stephen Porges, creator of polyvagal theory, states that calmness activates the vagus nerve, allowing our social brain to recover control when facing stress. The objective is to recover your center. It's not about ignoring what happens, but responding from emotional maturity. Reacting is impulsive. Responding is conscious. This difference is fundamental. When you decide not to enter the conflict in the moment, you're sending a clear message: I own my emotions. And this, even if the narcissist doesn't say it, generates a profound change. At first, they may challenge you even more, increase the provocation. But with time, when they realize they can no longer destabilize you like before, they'll start to modify their behavior. Why? Because you stopped being manipulable, because you established a limit. Practical example: if they launch an unfair criticism or a phrase that hurts, count to 10. Breathe and respond with serenity. Interesting what you said, I'll think about it, and change the subject. It's not ignoring the problem, it's choosing the right moment to address it. Narcissism needs an emotional stage, needs reaction. By denying this space, you're taking away their main power tool, and something very important happens. Respect begins to emerge. When someone can't control your emotions, they begin to see you from another place. It's a respect born from limits, from tranquil firmness, from maturity. And get ready, because the next strategy will teach you something few people know: how to use their own insecurities against them. Fourth strategy: subtly praise what they fear not being. The narcissist, in their deepest essence, lives imprisoned behind masks they've been building over time. They show themselves as someone bigger, better, more admirable than they really feel inside. As Freud brilliantly observed, behind narcissistic grandiosity, there's always a wounded child, insecure, afraid of not being enough. In this contradiction lies their great weakness, a deep insecurity, a constant fear of not being enough. When we understand this mechanism, we discover a powerful resource, subtly praising exactly what the narcissist fears not being. It's like touching a hidden wound with a silk glove. If someone forces an image of generosity, just say lightly, with an almost ironic tone, "Wow, how generous you really are, right?" And there, without need for conflict, something inside them trembles, because they recognize this praise isn't genuine. In daily life, this strategy can be applied discreetly. Imagine that co-worker who insists on positioning themselves as a leader, even when they don't demonstrate true capability. Next time they take initiative, you can comment with serenity. "It's impressive how you always assume leadership, even when nobody asked." This type of phrase acts like a mirror that reflects their excesses without need for direct confrontation. What's fascinating is that these compliments aren't offensive or aggressive. The effectiveness lies in the subtlety, in that apparent innocence that destabilizes the narcissist, because it exposes the cracks in their facade. And here, in this moment of doubt, is where they begin to lose balance. Think of someone who constantly brags about being the most caring and attentive person. A simple comment like, "Wow, how detail-oriented you are, right?" said with a light smile can plant a seed of doubt that echoes inside them more than it seems. To apply this in practice, observe. Make a mental list of the qualities this narcissistic person most displays, those they repeat endlessly. Then identify which ones seem most forced or exaggerated. At the next opportunity, launch a compliment in that specific area, but with a touch of humor or surprise. A University of Amsterdam study demonstrated that people with narcissistic traits are especially sensitive to indirect criticism. The research revealed that although they may apparently ignore them, their brain processes these subtleties as threats, activating areas associated with social pain and self-defense. Example: you can say, "Wow, you really are the most humble person in the group," and then stay silent. Don't explain, don't justify, because in that silence lies the strength of this strategy. The narcissist doesn't know how to deal with a compliment that's actually exposing their mask. And here comes the most interesting part. In the world of narcissism, where everything is facade, whoever detects the truth is perceived with respect. Without need for open confrontations, you manage to make them lower their guard and grant you a space of consideration they rarely offer others. But be careful, because the fifth strategy I'm going to show you now is so effective that it can make the narcissist develop an obsession with you. Fifth strategy: create mysteries about your life. Protecting our emotional intimacy is an act of deep self-care. Especially when we relate to narcissists, it's fundamental to learn to dose the information we share. The narcissist, by nature, seeks to control and anticipate. To achieve this, they need to know every detail of your life. The more they know, the easier it will be to manipulate you. That's why mystery becomes an invisible shield, like armor that protects you from attacks you don't even see coming. When you stop telling everything, when you start keeping certain things to yourself, you generate a space of protection. Silence isn't emptiness, it's strategy. Has it ever happened that someone got irritated just because you didn't tell them something? The narcissist becomes completely displaced when they can't anticipate your movements. Not knowing what you think, what you do, or who you're with generates insecurity in them, and this insecurity breaks control. This means breaking the habit of sharing every step, every emotion, every small detail. In a healthy relationship, transparency strengthens the bond. But with a narcissist, this same transparency transforms into a breach through which control infiltrates. As Freud taught, not all psychic contents should be manifest. Some are more powerful when they remain latent. It's not lying, it's consciously deciding what deserves to be shared and what doesn't. If they ask where you went, you can respond simply, "I went out to take care of some things." There's no need to go into explanations. If they insist, you can smile and say with tranquility, "I'll tell you later." It seems simple, but this phrase said with serenity has more strength than you imagine. It marks limits without confrontation. In the professional environment, something similar happens. Speaking less about your plans and acting more can protect you from sabotage or manipulation attempts. Think of every word you share as a chess piece. It can help you advance, but it can also be used by the other to corner you. Dr. Mario Alonso Puig states that the brain activates defense and clarity mechanisms when we stop exposing ourselves to environments where we're emotionally manipulated. When someone doesn't know what your next move will be, they lose the ability to anticipate. And this, in many cases, gives you freedom to act without interference or blocks. The narcissist fears what they can't control. Keeping certain aspects of your life in the private sphere isn't just prudent, it's deeply liberating. It's not about living in fear, but choosing with consciousness. Taking care of what we share is also a way of loving ourselves better. Besides, this strategy, more than protecting you, contributes to something very valuable: gaining the narcissist's respect. Why? Because when they realize they can't access all your information or influence each of your decisions, they begin to recognize you as someone who establishes clear limits. And in this limit, a new form of interaction is born. Respect doesn't arise from fear, but from the serene firmness with which you choose to care for your space. This emotional autonomy can profoundly change the dynamic, making the narcissist measure their actions more, knowing they no longer have free access to your inner world. But wait until you discover the sixth strategy. It's so effective that it can completely reverse the power relationship. Sixth strategy: have something they need. In relationships with narcissists, there's a rule that never fails. The narcissist tends to despise those they believe they can replace. But when they realize they need something only you can offer, they completely change the way they relate to you. A new dynamic comes into play because they no longer have total control. This something they need can be your network of contacts, your intuition for solving problems, your practical vision of the world, or even your inner peace. That calmness that can't be bought or manipulated. When you build your own value, something authentic that nobody can take from you, you activate a silent but powerful form of emotional self-defense. As Freud observed, the personal value we develop internally manifests in our presence and influence in the external world. When a person strengthens their emotional identity, they literally reconfigure their neural networks, generating a sense of internal coherence that translates into self-confidence and autonomy. The narcissist begins to perceive that without you, there are doors that don't open, paths that don't unlock. And this, even if they don't acknowledge it out loud, generates respect. The narcissist hates depending, but can't help respecting those who know how to make themselves indispensable. That's why it's so important to invest in yourself, learn more, expand your capabilities, strengthen your environment. Imagine that for a long time, they depended on you to manage daily life, resolve financial issues, make practical decisions. But one day, you start to grow, develop, become more autonomous. You stop being always available, and they perceive this as a loss of power. The narcissist doesn't tolerate losing control. However, when they observe you advancing, they realize you're a bridge they can't destroy. This respect, even if forced, generates a space of emotional protection, because now they know that if they lose you, they also lose. Clear example. If they always criticized your career, invest in it until you stand out, until you become a reference. If they belittled your digital influence, create a community that supports you. If they tried to shake your self-esteem, dedicate yourself to strengthening it. The secret lies in creating something so yours that they can't touch or manipulate it. Deep down, narcissism has a profound fear of those who build value that doesn't depend on their approval. And when they realize they need you more than you need them, respect is born. They may never say it, but they feel it. This completely changes the rules of the game. As modern psychology explains, the first step to protect yourself from toxic bonds is to become aware of the impact they have on your mind. Don't wait for them to change to start protecting yourself. Make decisions, bet on yourself, build what's yours. Because in the end, when you take control of your life, they lose the power they thought they had. And when this happens, an even deeper transformation is about to occur. Get ready for the 7th strategy, which will teach you to control something the narcissist values most: time. 7th strategy: manage response. Time. One of the most potent tools in complex relationships is learning to manage response time, especially with narcissists. The narcissist lives in immediacy, in the need for constant attention. They want you to respond right away, to enter their accelerated rhythm. But when you take control of your timing, something changes profoundly. Responding without haste isn't simply a tactic. It's a way of communicating without needing words that your life doesn't revolve around the other person. It's a clear signal of emotional autonomy. In this space of silence between stimulus and your response, the power of narcissism weakens. What hurts the narcissistic ego most isn't confrontation, it's indifference, the sensation of not being the center. From neurobiology, we know that every time we postpone an impulsive reaction, we strengthen our prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for self-regulation. As Freud said, when we learn to manage our impulses, we gain inner freedom and strengthen our emotional balance. When you receive a provocative message, a manipulative insinuation, or an unfair demand, don't react. Stop, breathe, take a walk, take distance. If possible, wait a few hours or even until the next day before responding. This pause creates a contrast between your calmness and the other's urgency. Often the narcissist doesn't seek conversation, they seek reaction. Not giving that reaction, responding with serenity, is exercising your personal power. When you decide to respond, do it with clarity, without entering emotional games or unnecessarily prolonging the interaction. If they ask why you took so long, respond with tranquility. I was busy with my things, without justifying yourself, without guilt. The balance lies in naturalness, in demonstrating that you have a full life and don't need to live according to anyone. This emotional lightness is profoundly transformative. As you maintain this attitude, the dynamic begins to change. The narcissist, even if they don't acknowledge it, begins to perceive you differently. Your serenity disconcerts them. Your distance forces them to readjust how they relate to you. Consequently, without need to confront, you begin to occupy a different place, a place from where you can only interact if there's respect. Thus, organically and naturally, a more balanced relationship is born, where control stops being an effective tool and respect becomes the new foundation. But get ready, because the 8th strategy I'm going to reveal now goes against everything you learned about fighting for your rights. It's radical, but that's exactly why it works. 8th strategy: don't try to win, let go. The narcissist feeds on competition as if every encounter were an emotional chess match. Every conversation, every gesture, every word transforms into a silent fight to be right, to control the scenario. That's why, while you strive to convince, explain, justify, or win, they grow stronger. Because you continue playing on their board. The key lies in leaving this game, in not moving any piece. When you stop needing to be right, you deliver an invisible but devastating blow to their ego. Narcissism needs a spectator, an adversary, someone to react. If there's no reaction, if there's no fight, the theater collapses. Silence in this context isn't passivity, it's strategy. It's like closing the curtain when the protagonist expects their grand monologue. Suddenly, the narcissist is alone, without stage, without lights, without applause. Letting go isn't resigning or staying quiet before injustice. Letting go is choosing where you're going to put your vital energy. As Freud taught, happiness isn't what happens to us, but how we interpret what happens to us. In this change of perspective lies the power to let go. Stop wearing yourself out trying to change those who don't want to change. Stop seeking justice from those who live in their own distorted version of the world. Letting go is a profound act of mental health. Choosing conscious silence, this pause full of intention, is an act of power. It's not about fleeing, but about choosing with clarity where your peace lies. Imagine someone expects you to lose control, to scream, to wear yourself out. But you decide to breathe deeply, maintain calm, and step away. This withdrawal isn't weakness, it's a serene victory. Because when you choose your well-being above the need to explain or convince, you recover something you had lost, your center. Think of a concrete situation, one of those where you tried repeatedly to make the person see your version, understand you, validate you. Now imagine that instead you had just said, "I understand what you think," and nothing more. Without justifying yourself, without entering the ring, it's renouncing the fight for approval. This is the essence of emotional self-care. This type of response disarms. It creates an invisible wall the narcissist can't cross because they need your conflict to feed themselves. The moment you decide not to fight, you win. Narcissism weakens when it discovers it can no longer drag you into their game. And here's the paradox. When you stop reacting, when you mark your limits with serenity and firmness, when you don't wear yourself out giving empty explanations, the narcissist begins to perceive something new in you. Respect. Not because they genuinely value you, but because they can't control you. And even if they don't say it, they respect what they can't manipulate. The firmness that expresses itself without raising voice, the conviction that doesn't need to be defended, the peace that isn't willing to be negotiated. This is your deepest victory, recovering your dignity without entering battle. Is it worth continuing to scream on a stage where nobody listens anymore? What if instead of screaming, you chose silence? What if that silence were your highest form of self-respect? Try it. Don't play, don't explain, don't insist. Breathe, let go. Remember, self-respect is the strongest shield. But now comes the moment of the most powerful strategy of all. The 9th and final strategy that can free you forever. 9th strategy, become emotionally inaccessible. This is the definitive strategy, the one that most terrifies the narcissist because it represents their total loss of power over you, becoming emotionally inaccessible. It's not about closing yourself to the world, but about creating an internal fortress so solid that manipulations simply bounce off. Being emotionally inaccessible means your emotions are no longer available to be manipulated. You feel, but don't react. You observe, but don't let yourself be affected. It's as if you had developed emotional armor that allows you to see clearly the narcissist's games without getting involved in them. Freud spoke about the concept of analytical neutrality, the ability to observe without letting yourself be emotionally contaminated by what we observe. When you apply this in real life, you become practically immune to manipulation attempts. The narcissist needs access to your emotions to exercise control. When you become emotionally inaccessible, they completely lose the ability to influence you. It's as if you were watching a movie instead of living the situation. You see everything, understand everything, but don't let yourself be dragged along. This happens when you finally understand that the narcissist's opinion, approval, or disapproval simply doesn't matter anymore. Their words become just noise, their attempts at provocation, just empty performances you watch with detachment. To reach this state, you first need to reconnect deeply with yourself. Know who you are, what your values are, what your purpose is. When this internal foundation is solid, nothing from outside can shake you. The narcissist will try everything to recover emotional access. They'll intensify provocations, try new angles of attack, maybe even show false vulnerability. But when you remain firm in your emotional inaccessibility, something extraordinary happens. They stop, simply stop, because they realize they can no longer reach you. And when a narcissist can't control you emotionally, only one option remains: to respect you. It's respect forced by circumstances, but it's respect. You become like a mirror that reflects back all manipulation attempts. Their words return to them. The negative energy they try to project onto you returns multiplied. And this forces them to deal with their own issues instead of projecting onto you. This final strategy isn't just about dealing with narcissists. It's about completely recovering your personal power, your emotional autonomy, your inner peace. It's about never again allowing someone to use your emotions as an instrument of control. When you master this ability, not only will the narcissist respect you, everyone around you will notice the change. There's something magnetically powerful about a person who can't be emotionally manipulated. It's an energy that naturally attracts respect. Remember, you always had this power within you. These strategies just helped you rediscover something that was always yours: your dignity, your strength, your ability to choose how to react to the world. Self-respect is the strongest shield that exists. It's not about changing the narcissist, but about recovering your power. By establishing limits, using strategic silence, avoiding provocations, and focusing on your own growth, you're taking giant steps toward your freedom and well-being. The true victory is preserving your integrity and not giving in to provocation. Maybe they made you believe you needed to beg for respect, but I want to tell you with all strength, you're still in time to recover your center and remember who you really are. When you truly respect yourself, everything changes. If any of this resonated with you, share your experience. Your journey can help other people, and remember, peace begins within you.